Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to TD Fans Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. We are live here on April 30th, 2020, just after the 8 o'clock hour, about a quarter after 8. Y'all hit that like button on your way in the room. This is TD Fans Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. Straight off the top, shout out to Randy Hunt with the early donation before we even got it started. Says shout out to the chat section. And yes, I agree. Shout out to the chat section. I left the chat section idle for about 25 to 30 minutes, and it looked like y'all already having fun. So shout out to you guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. Check me out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at TD Fans Talk. You can also find my content at dolphinstalk.com. We are live, guys. It is nighttime. It's time to relax. It's time to listen to some Miami Dolphins football talk. And we got a special treat for y'all tonight, all right? We got a special treat. We have a topic that I'll say that we never talk about. I've never talked about it. I may have mentioned it last year once, but it blew right by. But I want to talk about a specific topic tonight, and I have some special guests who are going to basically enlighten us on a lot of things in regards to this topic. It's an important one now more than ever. We haven't This topic hasn't been important to the Miami Dolphins in quite some time because it wasn't an easy thing for us to accomplish. But now, being that we are the 5th overall pick, it's relevant to us. And that is the supplemental draft, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people don't even know what the supplemental draft is. And we're going to break that down, and we're going to talk about how we can actually get some good weapons out of this potentially, especially with the pandemic going on, could work in our favor. We're going to break those things down. But before we do, I want to go ahead and bring in our special guest. Y'all already know the queen herself, Finsanity 5. What's up?
First of all, for you to say I'm a special guest like I'm not here more than anyone is like...
No,
that's like saying apples are the special guest to apple pie. Like it don't make sense, TD. It don't make sense.
Well, the special guest is the next person. I just prefaced it with that. Everybody know who you are, Finsanity, and they know you.
Listen, don't nobody know who I am.
Yes, they do. All right. Well, let me go ahead and bring on the special guest, a guy who I've been having a lot of football dialogue with quite often lately, and one thing I'll just preface it by saying this: this gentleman impresses me every time we have a conversation about football. He knows his stuff, and trust me on that. With the conversations we've had, he definitely knows his stuff. I'm excited about bringing him on the show, guys, and hopefully this may even start us working together more often. So, without further ado, I want to bring in the king himself. I'm going to start him out with the king title. Y'all know I go up every time. The king himself. Hey, what's up, man?
We giving out crowns?
What's going on? How you doing, TD? How you doing? Hello, great, family. How you doing today? I hope everything is going well. I hope everybody's safe. I hope everybody is ready for what's about to come down. It is a conversation that is very rarely had, but as TD said, it's something that could be used to the Miami Dolphins' advantage.
Yes.
And we want to, as a team, as a franchise, make sure that we don't leave any cracks, any nuggets, any rocks unturned. We want to find talent anyway, in any shape or form that we can. And even before we get started with the conversation, TD, I want to say to you that it has been a joy watching your shows between you, Ball Game, Finsanity, Esteban, Reasons, EM. Y'all have made quite a few evenings and days when I didn't catch it live go by at a better way, just because I was able to listen to some positive Dolphin talk.
Thank you. Say that again, Wayne.
Thank you.
What kind of Dolphin talk?
Positive Dolphin talk.
Yes, man, all that negativity I hear, and that's why I started the channel, because I couldn't find nothing positive. It was all negative. You might as well not be a fan if you're looking for Dolphin talk. That's why I started this channel, man, because I could see the bright side of things. I could see what we've always been trying to do. We just failed several times, and now we get to actually inform and educate individuals watching the channel why we failed, how we can do better, all those things that nobody know about. See, we talk football a lot. Everybody talk about who made the great catch on Sunday, who was the best quarterback, who ran the ball well. They do all of that stuff, but rarely do we really talk X's and O's. Do we talk football? Do we talk the nuances of the game? That's why I'm excited about tonight, to be able to talk about the supplemental draft. Honestly, half the people watching right now don't even know what a supplemental draft is. I'm guessing that, but I promise you, man, there are a lot of people that have no clue what a supplemental draft is, nor whether it matters or not. And we're going to break that down. I'm going to come to Dwayne to break that down in many ways tonight. Me and Finsanity, we're going to be talking off of a lot of things tonight. But before we get started, I want to go a little bit more in depth about what a supplemental draft is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, what happens is every year, and they've been doing this for over 30 years now, 40 years. A lot of people don't know this. I forgot whether it was like 83 or 73 when it started, but it was back. They've been doing supplemental drafts for almost 30, 40 years now, okay? What happens is players who are not eligible to enter the NFL draft like everybody else, the draft that we just had, they may be eligible for the supplemental draft. Some people may say, then why wouldn't they be eligible for the regular draft, but they're eligible for the supplemental draft in May? Because some kids decide, hey, I want to go back to school my senior season. And then all of a sudden they don't declare for the NFL draft, and then something happens in the world that makes them say, oh my gosh, circumstances have changed and I want to go to the NFL now, before the season starts. Thus, the supplemental draft. Another example of the supplemental draft, kids who may have gotten in trouble or not eligible for NCAA regulations, or they didn't finish school, so they don't meet the college football regulations to enter the draft. But now, all of a sudden, they meet the regulations, they meet the certifications to, or they got in trouble with the law. That made them ineligible to return their season seed. There are so many little nuanced reasons why they didn't enter the draft and they weren't eligible, but now all of a sudden a month later they are eligible. So remember, back in January you had to declare, but now you have a whole new wave. Now, most of the time it's irrelevant. There's usually 1, 2, or 3 players out of the whole country that's picked in the supplemental draft. It's like, oh, only 3 players win in the draft. Who cares? There's a lot of reasons to care this year. This is a different year. This is a peculiar year. This year, you got 2 factors going on, okay? Number 1, COVID-19. Circumstances have changed drastically. There are some conferences and some schools who have already come out and said they may not have football in 2020. There are some that already said that. So imagine that kid that said, I could go in the NFL draft right now and be a 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round pick, but I'm going to go back my senior year and ball out so I can raise my stock. And now COVID-19 is on the horizon, and they may not even have football, so they may be eligible if the league decides they're eligible to go ahead and enter the supplemental draft right now and forget about going back their senior year because they may not even have a senior year. You also have individuals who, and that's the COVID situation. Okay, that's the COVID-19 situation. Another reason why Miami are huge players right now, because the supplemental draft goes in order, ladies and gentlemen. It works like this. All the teams that didn't make the playoffs, who won less than 6 games, get the first priority in the supplemental draft. They get the first priority. The Miami Dolphins won less than 6 games, so they're at the top of the list. They're one of the top of the list teams in the supplemental draft. That hasn't happened often. We always win more than 6, whether it's 7 or 8 or 9. And we already don't have first dibs, but this year we have first dibs because we only won 5 games. Okay? So we're huge players in the supplemental draft. Now, the next level are the teams that didn't go to the playoffs, but they won more than 5 games. And the last level are the teams that went to the actual playoffs. Okay? Now, how a supplemental draft works is, let's hypothetically, give me a college player real quick, Dwayne.
Walker Little.
Walker Little may enter the supplemental draft. So here's how it works. Brian Flores and Greer, they say, you know what? Brian Little is somebody we've been looking at for a while now. We expect him to come out in 2021, but he's coming out in 2020 in the supplemental draft. What would we pay for this kid in a real draft? Flores and Greer talks about it. They may say, hey, I'll give a 3rd rounder. I'll give a 4th rounder. So every team has to bid for whatever player they're interested in the supplemental draft. So they bid on that player. The Miami Dolphins just entered a bid of the 3rd round pick that they would select the player. Whoever the highest bidder is in that group, which is the top group for Miami after only winning 5 games, whoever the highest bidder is wins the player, and then they lose that draft pick for next year. So you're using next year's capital if you win the bid. That's why a lot of teams stay away from it, but there are some teams that actually go after players in the supplemental draft. Do you all know some of the top players that went in the supplemental draft?
Chris Carter, he's a Hall of Famer.
Chris Carter, Hall of Famer, supplemental draft guy.
Bernie Kosar, 1985.
Kosar, 85. Josh Gordon.
Brian Bosworth.
Yep, Ryan Bosworth.
Bobby Humphrey.
Yes, it's tons of players that have actually been great players in the supplemental draft. They just weren't eligible to enter into the NFL season. And it's never really been relevant for Miami because we've always been a part of the second group, and we would have to overbid to get a guy, but we're in the first group this time, and that doesn't happen often. So the reason why we wanted to bring this to your attention tonight, because there are some really good players that could have declared this year in the supplemental draft that Miami may be able to go after. And those individuals, might I add, are at position needs. And Dwayne, did you have some information on some of those guys?
Yes, I did. When you talk about, let's just say safety, you have Richard LeCounte. He's 5'11", 190 pounds from safety. The last 3 years, he averaged more than 50 tackles, and he's forced seven turnovers in those 3 years. So that's one. Just in the tackles, in the safeties, Richie Grant from University of Central Florida. He averaged more than 45 tackles per year, 6 interceptions in 2018, 8 pass breakups in 2019. Everybody's lamenting over the fact that the Dolphins didn't pick the right safety according to them, not according to Greer and Flores, but according to them.
Exactly.
But there's an opportunity to get a safety if they so choose. Cornerbacks. If there's a need to pick up another cornerback, you couldn't go wrong with some bloodlines from the Surtains. Everybody knows about Pat Surtain, who played often for years with the Dolphins. Patrick Surtain, the second, he's from Alabama, 6'2", 203 pounds. Last 2 years averaged 30 tackles and 2 interceptions in 2019. Israel Mukamura from South Carolina, cornerback, 6'4", 205 pounds. Someone who could definitely battle with the tall, long receivers that have been prevalent in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years. He's had 45 tackles in 2019, 4 interceptions. He had a 3 interception game last year, He had 9 pass breakups in 2019, and he only allowed 2 receptions per game, and 13 of those were less than 9 yards. So the guy knows how to cover. He stays sticky, stays on the hip. Somebody that could fit into the Flores plan for the defensive backs. You can go to tight ends. People, I myself, I was a little disappointed that the Dolphins missed out on Colby Parkinson, but you have some tall tight ends available as well. Kyle Pitts from Florida, 6'6", 239 pounds, 54 receptions, 649 yards, and 5 TDs. Jalen Watermer from Texas A&M, 6'5", 260, had 32 receptions and 447 yards with 6 touchdowns. So these 2 gentlemen, along with Brevin Jordan, they could be options that Flores and Greer could put a 4th round, a 5th round bid to get to fill a need if Smythe, Roberts don't work out as the blocking tight end that they require, but also provide the ability to catch the ball.
And I think, and with all those players, Dwayne, here's what I think. This is why I personally feel like Miami should be huge players in this supplemental draft, because I also feel like the supplemental draft is an opportunity to kind of still get like a good bargain on a guy, because nobody really wants to throw around a draft pick for a guy who personally felt like he wanted to stay in school in the first place. But also people bid low bids. They don't give, like, there are 2nd round talents that most teams bid 4th and 5th round picks for. And that's where you can steal certain players, because people try to come out of the supplemental draft with the W, with the win, grabbing a 1st or 2nd round talent by just offering a 4th and hoping nobody outbids you. And go ahead.
That's true. The Dolphins in this situation for 2021, they have 10 picks. So
yeah, I think 9 right now.
They could afford to put a bid in on one of these players and make it where it's not a 6th or 7th round bid, but a 4th round or a 3rd round bid, just to get those blue chip players, and don't have to really bother with looking at draft slots and or making trades. They can just go and put a bid on this player, and hopefully that's the highest bid.
Yeah, and what a lot of people have to realize, the supplemental draft, it isn't a draft where you have rounds.
No.
There are no rounds.
Right.
You just know all the players who's eligible, and you put a bid on the ones that you want. And the NFL takes all the bids and say, okay, player number 1, who has the highest bid in this group, the group who won less than 6 games, who has the highest bid? Okay, it's the Miami Dolphins offering a 4th rounder. Everybody else either a 5th or a 6th for this player. Miami Dolphins win that. They lose their 4th round pick for next year. And a lot of people underbid because some teams don't even get involved, y'all. A lot of actually more than half the teams don't even get involved. They may throw a little 7th rounder, see if nobody bid on a guy and try to grab him. But a lot of teams don't really get involved. This is why the Miami Dolphins it's like a waiver wire. You know how when you playing fantasy football, you have that setting, whoever the worst team gets the first available pick. This is that moment. No, a lot of people are not, listen, they do not offer face value. If you got a 1st round talented type guy, they're not going to go in a supplemental draft and give away a 1st round because they haven't done the extensive work on these kids like they did the other ones who entered the draft. Some of them are working on the extensive work right now on some of these kids, but this is where you get your steals. And I really hope, being that we were the 5th worst team last year, which means that we have an opportunity to grab a player or 2, that we're taking advantage of this opportunity and actually putting some bids out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't grab one or two players.
Could you imagine TD getting a Travis Etienne or a Chuba Hubbard for a third-round pick?
I mean, the running backs, even Najee Harris is there.
Yep.
That might be
there's a name y'all ain't mentioned. That should have been the first name y'all mentioned, and everybody has been asking about this young man.
Oh, Devontae Smith.
Oh, Devontae Smith, number 6 from Bama. Go out and get to like I'm saying here. I'm trying to let y'all be great. You guys said a lot of amazing names, a lot of guys, and I mean it's going to be very interesting to see when these guys do I guess put in their bid, because you have to file for it, and then it's like on case by case basis whether you are accepted or not to be included in the supplemental draft, right? So Devontae Smith, he went back for an extra year, but he is very much eligible to petition. Oh yeah, I was supposed to give you that message, TD, to call your sister. Sorry, girl, I got so excited, but the fact that that is someone you want on this team. Why? Because Tua thrives on players who can get into team secondary. And the one thing that I love about Tua is once his wide receivers find a line, he throws the ball on a perfect trajectory where they don't gotta roam, they don't gotta worry about getting hit. Wherever that ball lands, you catching and you're running to the end zone. And the guy who he's done it the best with since his freshman year, Devontae Smith. Come on. Come on. This is Bama, baby. This is Roll Tide country. Any Bama player who decides to declare. And listen, and for a player like that, I know people are saying put a third in, but if that's someone you really want, we have an extra second. Go on out there. Don't touch the first, but you do have an extra second that you can go ahead and mortgage. You have enough picks in the back end to trade back up. So at the end of the day, don't let someone like that go to Cincinnati because y'all both bid a third, and Cincinnati has, I guess the ranking above you, and he gets to go on to Cincinnati and get to be with Joe Burrow. When you have an extra second right there, you're being greedy. I understand a lot of us don't want to use that second, but at the end of the day, we don't know who's going to be available in the second round next year. So go ahead and spend it on the man because he is a first round pick. Why not? Sorry, guys, you're thinking so fast. I'm sorry. Jalen Waddle.
You raise a valid point about the fact that with the Dolphins having that extra second round pick, if you have confidence in the fact that that is the player that you want and you can get him now, incorporate him into the system now, go ahead and do it. Because even if there isn't, and I don't want this to happen, not a season, at the very least, you are incorporating him into the playbook. You're incorporating him into your dietary and nutritional program. You're incorporating him into the physical and weightlifting program that you want. So that way, when there is a season, that's 3-4 less things that aren't a worry or a big concern.
Yep. You could start parts of your draft next year right now. And you can start parts of that right now.
And someone asked, why would Devontae Smith declare for the supplemental draft? Here's the fact that you don't know if there's going to be a college football season, one. Two, granted, his status in the stature is solidified, but most of these guys don't want to sit around campus. If they can go out and make money this year, why not? Why not sit around when you might not be able to play football? I get the value of going and finish your education in return for his senior year. That was probably one of the key points that he wanted to get to. And he also wanted to compete for a national championship. Well, if that's not on the table because there's not going to be a season, you might as well go ahead, get your money. You'll be able to pay for that last year of college. Don't worry. The money will be there. And you get to ensure that 9 times out of 10, you most likely will be with your guy Tua.
And you get to go online like everybody else is going to school under the current situation.
Yeah, but I mean, he has to. I know one said he's going to.
That's why this year is, see, any other supplemental draft, it's like, okay, first of all, who's going to be available? Who's coming out? It's not many people come out in the supplemental draft. But given the current circumstances with COVID-19, there's a lot of talk about will there even be college football next season? Because schools can't take the same risks that a business like the NFL can take. If you notice that a business can go ahead and start practices of reopening when a school has too much liability. There's too much liability with students and things where the school has to make sure all the kids that's at the school are protected. And if they're doing online learning and things like that until this thing is really safe. So that's the main factor of why we might actually see a slew of top tier talent say, why am I going to sit around, like FinSanity said, why am I going to sit around for a year and play with my fingers when my draft stock isn't rising that much because we may not play anyway? So why not go now? Why not go ahead and enter the supplemental draft and start getting paid right now? That's why this is a huge bargain. This is an opportunity to actually grab a player or two, potentially, if they decide to come out and incorporate them in the NFL right away.
I do have a strong feeling that the Power Fives will figure it out. I don't know about all the other schools, but I do feel like the Power Five, even if they keep it, within their respective conferences, granted it's going to be a shortened season and all that, and you're not going to have as much football, but at least they're all in the same area for the most part. You're going to get these guys on the field, and there's too much money to be made. I feel bad for all the other kids who won't be able to go out and play their senior year, but with the effects of COVID, you can't be having schools traveling all over the nation right now. So to me, simplify it, let the Power Fives go out, fulfill your TV contracts. I mean, you're talking about, and I mean, at the end of the day, now I guess, would you have 5 teams? I don't know. The playoffs is what, normally 4? So, I mean, who's the odd man out? Pac-12 is always odd man out, right? And like the college football playoffs, Pac-12 is normally the odd man out.
Recently, yes.
Recently, I mean, listen, they had their era. I remember.
Yeah.
From film. But I wonder how they would like incorporate that into like a college playoff like situation, because I know they're still going to want to do that. But then even with that, like there's just so many variables into that. But SEC, they're all close. They're all right there. Pac-12, Big Ten, the Big East, the ACC, and all those. Let those guys go out and play it out their last years. Those are the most highly competitive guys you have, allegedly, because we know there are talented guys who just didn't get their chance at the big name school, or some of them just had to, transfer somewhere else so they could get on the field. But I hate to do that to them, but if we're going to have some college football, to me, that seems like the solution. Well,
already in California, the governor has said that they're not authorizing playing football in the state. So that knocks out a considerable number of the Pac-12 teams because you got that knocks out about 8 or 9 teams in the Pac-12. Only thing you got is Oregon State, Washington State, and Arizona State. But 6 out of the 14 teams playing, but
12.
But right now, well, you got UCLA, USC, Cal, Stanford. So those teams won't be playing. So even in that situation, the conference schedule is shortened, which means that those players in that conference would be even more inclined to apply and petition to be a part of the supplemental draft. I know that there's a push to open up certain states, and some states have already gotten their plans to open partially, but that's a big difference between that and, as TD was talking about, where parents are going to make the decision to allow or not allow their children, because remember, these, in their eyes, it's their children, to go play in a situation where you are in close proximity on a regular basis to someone that you don't know what their status is. So we as football fans, we want it, we yearn for it, but you think about 60, 80 times coming in close proximity to someone over a 3-hour period, let alone the practicing that you coming in close contact with people as well. Yeah. These are all certain issues that have to be resolved, worked out before you even start talking about a season. How you gonna practice? How you gonna practice? As Allen Iverson said, we talking practice.
And you're talking about from the college realm, right?
Yes. In the college,
because a lot of people, some people would say, well, the same thing for the NFL, but there is a such thing as social economics, okay? And you have a social economic status. When you're in college, you don't have the resources to protect yourself as much, I would say. The individuals in the NFL may have more resources and live more secure lives, more safer lives, and different avenues. They may not have to always go to the grocery store, and they may be able to have somebody do it for them or whatever it may take. But some people out here are at risk less than others because they don't have to actually take chances with the exposure, and that's just all across the board.
Well, I mean, they should be in a quarantine situation. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of these programs already have, like, these big name programs like I'm talking about, like in the Power 5, have, personal chefs for their football program. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, if you're really trying to do that, you're going to quarantine these guys. You are going to test them, and you're going to make sure that there is minimal contact. And if it is, found that someone has it, good riddance. Bye. Sorry.
How many 18 to 20-year-olds have the personal discipline to adhere to each and every aspect of social distancing constantly?
Zero. Not the ones you have a career beyond this.
Certain situations. So now you're asking 18 to 20-year-olds to adhere to.
That's what you have security for. They don't. The only thing you get to do is you get to sleep in your dorm, go to practice, eat, and then go back. And then we all get on the bus together. Ain't gonna be no sneaking in. Believe me, these guys have the money. Ain't gonna be no sneaking in and no sneaking out. You will not have, Glory Road when the guys jumped the border and went to Mexico. You will not be having things like that. They will hire the right personnel to make sure that everyone is in one tightly knit unit, because guess what? Once one domino falls, all the dominoes falls, and then you are back to square one trying to figure this thing out. And that's the last thing. That's the last position that these major programs are going to want to do. Everything will be tight knit. And granted, I don't think it's fair to the players to make them do this, especially since some of them won't have a career beyond football. But that's a decision and a choice that they're going to have to personally make. But sorry, not sorry. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have to make tough decisions if you want to play. And I mean, NASCAR just opened back up, and they're going to have a race at an actual track, I think, in May with no fans. So that shows some glimmer of hope that we might get back to some normalcy. But a lot of this comes down to when college football, the powers of the NCAA, decide what they're going to do about this football season. And that puts a lot of the guys in a very interesting situation, because if you file and then you're picked, then you're gone. But let's say they do decide, we're just going to postpone the season. You lost your chance on potentially where you knew you were a first round pick. Now you're getting picked up as a third and you're not getting paid as much. And I understand, I do not know how to say his name. Rhino. We're just going to call him Rhino from now. I understand Ronald's point about that. It's just a very difficult situation to put these young men in so early in their lives, because they're used to a routine, and now that routine is no longer there. And you're asking them to make impactful decisions on their lives in a matter of a couple of months, really. Mm-hmm. So,
one other aspect of this, of the season part of it, is that those quote unquote, and I put up air quotes, those sacrificial lambs, those teams that won't get that gate at those big Big Five colleges during the early part of the season. Some of that, a lot of that money that they get, that's bye-bye. That's going bye-bye for sure. And it goes to support not just the team, but in some situations, the academic parts of the school as well. So this COVID-19 has an impact far-reaching in college football.
Well, aren't the players allowed to like use their likeness now and all that to make money? So I mean, it's going to come down to how famous you are.
That may go
at your program.
Yeah, but it's hard.
But you can't roam.
See, when you're advertising, though, it's hard to, whenever you don't have a season coming up, to put it out on display. You know, whenever somebody invests money in you through advertisement, they're expecting you to also be on the field, perform, and then associate their brand with the individual. So again, this is all, a lot of this hinges on, will there even be a football season for college? Also, even if there is a football season for college, based off of some states' rules and guidelines or regulations, some schools may not have football. So it's gonna be a give and take. It's just a messy situation. And like Reno C said, we're assuming that we're having a supplemental draft. That's true too. But right now it's on the NFL calendar. They still plan to go ahead with it. So we're acting as if we still will, because if so, given the circumstance, if you can't do anything with COVID-19, at least take advantage of whatever it does give you. You know? So at the end of the day, it's a unique opportunity for the Miami Dolphins to open their eyes and say, hey, we might be able to find some really good talent out of this and get it at a really good cost. It's like getting that fourth rounder. You know they should have went in the second round. And that I'm down for. We all should be down for that. Discount. It's a clearance rack. It's the clearance rack with the good stuff, man.
Yep.
It's the clearance rack. So
discount off of
yep.
Just imagine Travis Etienne instead of using
I have a question.
Fourth round pick.
Because I have a question, because I understand that we get first dibs at the bid, right? But say like a team that knows that they're going to have a late first round pick, but they don't really need it. What happens if that third group, someone goes ahead, you know what, we really like this guy, we know he's going to be impactful, he's going to start for us, and they throw in a first round bid because they know they ain't going to need it, or they.
But it's hard for. It's hard for any team. Do they then
get the pick?
But it's hard for any team, right, to say that they're going to be a late
right
first.
Now. But come on, you know, we're talking about the upper echelons of teams who we all assume 9 times out of 10 will be in the playoffs this year. Most likely will make a run. Huh?
Like who?
We can say the Chiefs. You can say the Ravens. You can say you can say Green Bay. They might say, you know what? We didn't get, Aaron a wide receiver. We're causing a lot of dysfunction. Why don't we just go out and just blow one and get it? I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah. It just depends, man. Those first round picks are very valuable. I mean, I don't think I would personally ever throw out my first in a supplemental draft, because a lot can happen
if
between
it's for
now
the
and
right
next year.
player, TD. If it's like one of these top name players who we know who are worth it. Come on.
That's like Trevor entering the supplemental draft.
Yeah,
Trevor didn't have a quarterback, then throw the first, and you may get him. Wow. Yeah. I get it.
I don't think he's eligible. He's not eligible. Trevor's not eligible.
No, I was just saying in general.
Okay.
Shout out to DY2 with the donation, because he said something about Tua. I want to read it, and I also want to talk about Tua and what hinges on the success for him. He said, redshirt Tua, every elite quarterback we've seen the last 20 years have sat behind a quality vet first. We've got nothing but time now. It's about the future. I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with
the term every?
Every? What do you mean?
He says every elite quarterback we've seen in the last 20 years
has sat behind. No, not every, but I get what they were really trying to say. He said
I got it.
Most of the pretty good ones, they've been sitting
behind.
It's becoming more of a common trend.
I didn't want them to kill you in the chat section. You feel me? Because look, somebody already said Andrew Luck, but I don't know if Andrew Luck was elite. He was good, but I mean.
No, I appreciate it. And shout out to Powerhouse TJ. I don't think they stream the supplemental draft. They just let teams know who they've been awarded. All right. Now the Tua situation. First of all, we got to talk about what is going to help this kid be successful. Now in Alabama, they ran a zone offensive line blocking scheme, basically, from my understanding. Is that correct?
Sometimes. Is that what we're trying to accomplish here in Miami?
I believe so.
And what makes us think that we're going to a zone scheme on the O-line?
Well, you look at the athletic offensive linemen that they've drafted between Jackson, Hunt, and Kinley. Powerful, big guys, but also able to move. Those are three of the characteristics that you need to successfully perform zone blocking. And you also need communication and technique and repetition to be able to do it to a high point. So when you look at what the offensive line was like last year, a lot of it was inability to communicate because of unfamiliarity. A lot of it was talent, and a lot of it was also a lack of communication.
Now, you're speaking on our O-line from last year, right?
Yes,
and
underperformance. I'm not going to let the tight end position get away scot-free, because Smythe, he also failed in a lot in situations that caused the running backs, even with their characteristic of needing to have the vision to see the hole. If the hole isn't there, there's no choice to be made. So the tight ends, they need to block better, along with the offensive line. That can be done through communication, familiarity with each other, and repetition. When you think about a zone blocking scheme, the first thing you got to know is which direction the play is going, and then you have to make a decision as to whether or not you, as the offensive lineman or tight end, whether you're covered or uncovered. The center, he makes the call 90% of the time. The center is making the call as to who is the mic. Now, I've heard persons say in the chat that, oh well, Rosen, he shouldn't be playing because he doesn't even know how to identify the mic. Well, in a lot of offensive lines, it's the center who is making that call as to who the mic is, and then from that and deciding what direction the play is and who's
everybody can align themselves.
Everybody makes their calls and communicates their calls as to whether or not they're taking on a block, and or if they're uncovered, who they're going to be double teaming or helping achieve that block. So when you think about it, you got your first level, which whether you're in a 3-4 or 4 or 4-3, your first level, you want to block the fat man first. So if you have a person in front of you or to your side, whether it's a 1, a 2, or a 3 technique or shade, then you have somebody, that guard or that tackle. If they're not covered, they're uncovered, and they're helping out on a double team and having their eyes on that linebacker. So if that linebacker comes to that gap in a blitz, they can peel off of that block and block the linebacker. The object of the double team is to actually push that lineman, that defensive lineman, that tackle or end or nose guard, all the way to the linebacker level, to the second level. And they peel off from there to your blocks. Now, some places they teach you block a man. Some places they teach or you block a gap or area. If you're assigned to a gap, when you do that double team, once you get that guy near the second level, you need to be having your eyes peeled for that linebacker to come in to fill in that, just in case they're going to blitz the gap. So that comes with communication at the pre-snap. All those decisions, whether or not you're going to be aiding in a double team or expecting a double team. And it goes for the tight end as well. The tight end may have a responsibility. He's called by the tackle to double team a end, and if he's not able to do that, then it throws everything off, because there have been plays where linebackers have come from the C gap or the B gap and have blown up the play and caused Balaj, Laird, whoever the case may be, running back of the day, to have negative yardage or no yardage on plays. For everybody who is so hyped about Patrick Laird, his rushing stats weren't any better than Balaj's. Now, with the additions of Howard and Breida, let's hope that the rushing stats get better, and maybe, just maybe, Balaj with a good offensive line can show the talent and show the business, show the vision that he came out of, what was that, Arizona State?
Yeah.
That he showed that potential, because contrary to what everybody says, until the coaching staff says goodbye to Balaj, Balaj is a quality talent that has not yet been fully realized. Not many players can have that 6'2", 230 and run 4.4, under 4.5, 4.4. So he's gotta live up to his potential. With the draft picks that they've done, they have taken a lot of the excuse out. It's now about communication between the center, the two guards, and the tackles to determine when those double teams are supposed to occur and where, whether it's play side or backside, and whether or not they achieve those double teams effectively and still have the ability to peel off and attack the second level. So I know.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So is this all about? I understand what you said, and thank you for allowing the fan base to get a glimpse. And this is why I also preface, you got to be able to get guys that can get, up the field, especially with your guards and all that. Because we got 8 up in the B gap last year. We're not going to get to that. But is this all about trying to validate why Balaj has a chance to start this year? Or do you not even, do you think that he can start this year? Or is it a foregone conclusion that either that Howard and Breida will basically share most of the snaps? What is your philosophy on it?
I think that Flores is going to give Balaj a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the second preseason game, if we have a preseason and everything, or that second week of training camp, that will be determined as to whether or not he gets snaps, or he's gets first string snaps, or if he's relegated to a backup role. Because I believe that Breida and Perry and Laird are going to fight it out for that third down back.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I actually agree with that, because I could see Balaj competing for the starting job. People always have this notion of automatically assuming who the starter is based off of their history, and like, oh, we just got this player from that team and he was, one of their best backs, so he's starting on our team because he's better than everybody on our team. What matters is what happens in camp. One of the bad things is last year, Balaj was destroying Kenyon Drake in camp. It was the Balaj show in camp. That's why I knew Balaj was going to be the starter. And everybody, TD, you delusional. And who ended up starting? Kalen Balaj. He got the majority of the carries. They went ahead and traded Drake. And this was why. So when we get into camp, it's going to be the guy who picks up the offense best, who's playing the best football. And this time we have, I believe, a good defensive seven that's going to challenge them, so we can get a more accurate look at a lot of these guys in camp. But Balaj is certainly one of our top backs, and people aren't getting that only because of the season that just transpired. People always do that. They ignore the whole picture. They only ignore the circumstances surrounding what's happening in the immediate moment. That's why you're going to hear this Balaj is trash, trade Balaj, cut him. You're going to hear that for another 4 months. Then people are going to be scratching their head. How is Balaj the starter? Or how is he the number 2 on the depth chart? And these things are, or he can relegate to number 3, or he can get cut. Yep. It could go either way.
I have a question. Now finish your statement, then I'll ask my question. I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know I have a question.
No, I got you. I'm gonna come straight to you, but it just amazes me that people make that automatic assumption that he's automatically the odd guy or the third wheel because of the guys that we brought in. Those guys got to perform in camp. Those guys have to, if you think about it, both of those guys were removed from their old team because the people that replaced them did just as good, if not better. Their replacements, but that's why those other individuals got the opportunity because of their injury. And then the team saw, behind this line, these guys are running just as good. So why are we going to consider re-ing up this guy's contracts, especially coming fresh off of an injury? So
Breida was killing it, though.
Yeah, he was killing it until what happened?
So he got injured, and Mostert took the opportunity. But don't act like
Let me ask you a question, Finsanity. Let me ask you a question.
San Francisco just got too deep in the running back.
Thank you, but
that's got too deep.
But that's the point, though. But that's the point. If you have Derrick Henry on your roster, and I ain't saying Breida is Derrick Henry. If you got Derrick Henry on your roster, and he has the same injury Breida had, are you replacing him the very next year?
Who, Derrick Henry?
You're still going to wait on Derrick Henry. So at the end of the day, he can be killing it, but killing it ain't elite to the teams that he left, or they would have kept him.
Running back.
No. The thing is, all three of those players have something to prove.
Exactly.
Howard has something to prove. He's got to justify the contract and justify and say, well, it's not a fluke. Those 2 years that I averaged almost 1,000 yards a season, I can still do that. Breida, he's got a chip on his shoulder. Man, I was balling and I got traded because of an injury. And I got to reprove myself to a new coaching staff. Balaj, he got a chip on his shoulder because he's saying, this may be my last shot at getting a number one running back spot. So I got to ball out as well. So the situation is good for the Dolphins because one of them is going to prove to be the guy.
Yep.
Well, right now I got my money on Howard, so I kind of have to. I'm not wishing anyone, any ill will or anything, but I got a T-shirt coming, to me in January, so I can't, because I did not put a starting clause on it. Only thing we got is an injury clause. So last thing I need is for Howard to be not starting. So, hold up, wait. Because Anthony keeps asking this question. I'm sorry, Anthony. The reason why you don't allow your practice players to go to the arena football leagues, if they get hurt, that is completely on you. And for insurance purposes, you don't want that, because if you do need to call those guys up, you want them to be ready and available. And who wants that extra miles on the players?
Moment's notice, you need them to be fit,
right, and ready. Fresh.
That's why they're given a playbook, and that's why they participate in practice. So that way, when you need to call them off the practice squad on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, they are ready. Next man up, next person up.
Might even need them to play.
Do your job.
Shout out to the intern.
Now I'm still interested in this zone blocking because, and I could be wrong, but y'all help me out with this. To me, the best blocking you can have is zone blocking versus man versus, to me, that's the intelligent football. And I know that we also talked about it's not the quarterback's job to identify the mic. It's not his job, right? But I think it also is the quarterback's job, because he can identify where the overload is coming from, and he could also basically make the proper read and audible and make those decisions.
He has the choice. He has the decision to audible out of a play if the coach gives him that authority to audible out of a bad play, whether or not the offensive line have assigned the proper blocking or the best blocking they could. If he sees an opportunity for a better play, then he calls out a better play. So, for example, if there was a play, and because there's no diagrams up, I'll just describe it. Let's say that there was an opportunity. You put a guy in motion, and the middle linebacker, or the linebacker flows with that slot to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a lot of open field in a 2x2 set. You motion one over. Now you have a lot of grass in an open area. So you could at that point audible out of a play to do some sort of, and with a running quarterback, you could do a counter to that play you had and run a bootleg. But those are situations where the quarterback can make a decision. But the line assignments, as far as the blocking, that's done by the center. By calling out the mic, he's basically telling everybody how to call out their assignments.
Yes.
So
off of his call, and whether it's a 3-4, your mic is probably the backside linebacker, inside linebacker, not the nose, but the inside linebacker on the backside of the play. That's your mic. Yes.
In a 4-3, the mic is more than likely the person who is closest to attacking the A gap on the play side, not the offside, but the play side. So if the play is going to the right, the closest defender to the A gap is the mic. So it's not necessarily the middle linebacker, it's whoever is the closest person to the play side A gap.
So for those who are trying to follow us right now, basically we're giving you information on Sam, Mike, Will. We're talking about whose assignment is what, the offensive line. The center is actually communicating with the offensive line. Okay,
TD, you might want to break down Sam Mike Will to them.
No,
they might not know. I mean, you just said Sam Mike Will. I understand what you're saying, but they might not know what they correspond to on the field.
Yeah, we're about to elaborate on all of it. I'm giving y'all right now. I want to show y'all the difference first on what we're talking about is assignment. When the center comes up to the line, do you ever see him when he got his head down? The play look like he's about to start, but then he picks his head up, he looks around, and he points.
It says 054.
Yes,
thank you, Jazza.
Now he's communicating with the O-line, ladies and gentlemen. Now also he's helping the quarterback too, because the O-line is telling the center is telling the whole O-line, all right, this is our guy. This is the guy right up the middle, closest to the A gap. And now we need to align off of him with our assignments. Okay. Right. Now, after he lines up off to him with the assignments, the ultimate decision comes down to the quarterback as well. A great quarterback isn't just going to run the play. He's like a real good quarterback. Your Peyton Manning's, your Tom Brady's. They're doing the same thing the center is doing. They're saying, okay, there goes the Mike, right? There goes the guy closest to the A gap. And if I'm looking at our formation and I'm looking at he's going to pick up him, he's going to pick up him, he's going to pick up him. But you know what? The Sam is here on the strong side. The free safety then came down in the box, but on the strong side, you know, or if they can load up on the defensive line can be zero technique. They could bring a linebacker downhill in a one technique. They could load up the middle, and now the quarterback has to sit there and say, they're bringing all the pressure up the middle. I could either still stay. The run might actually be going up the middle, or it might be going off the right guard. And the quarterback can right then and there say, you know what? They're bringing everything up the middle. All we got to do is beat the edge. The right tackle or the tight end has to set that edge, and we can go around on a sweep or we can go around on a toss. The quarterback has to identify if this run is right up the middle, but the way that they're playing and their techniques and the linebacker's shaving, he's veering up, or the safety's coming down in the box, but he's actually got one of the techniques. He might like literally a safety can be in a 2 technique. A safety can be in a 3 technique, a 4 technique, somewhere closer to the middle. And if they're crashing that middle, the quarterback has to be able to call out of those plays. But sometimes you have quarterbacks who can't even see that, and they still run the ball up the middle where it's loaded. It's like common sense things. Quarterback has to learn everybody's job too.
And in some situations, that running back has to be reading the same thing that the offensive lineman is reading, so that he knows where his he's supposed to go, where his cuts can be as well. So most inside zone plays, they run off the center's butt or the guard's butt. But if there's a blitz in the A or B gap, then he's got to know if the play is still going to go, it's going to rip, then he's got to anticipate that, have the vision to see where that hole is going to be or should be, and hit that hole. Now, there are some situations where the hole isn't there. That's why I'm not a total Balaj basher, but everybody on the field has a responsibility for blocking. And that goes for the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line. So I see the comment there. Yes, the O-line gets credit when the running game is going, but also Ezekiel Elliott eats a lot because of that offensive line, right? So it plays both ways. They get the blame, and they also get the credit when it's due. And the offensive line and the tight end, blocking tight ends last year, they didn't do their job. If they do their job this year, they'll get the credit.
Well, I mean, Jerry Jones said it himself, anyone could run. I can get a Mack truck to run through this line. I mean, so Jerry Jones has always given his line the credit, and he paid them all. So
I give the lines credit, though. I always give the offensive lines credit first before the running back.
That's
But it's that's why I'm always saying you got to recognize if a running back's good enough. Now it's a different when you want to talk about elite running backs. They make up for even bad play, like breaking a tackle here and there, getting out of trouble. But you can't ask that of everybody. Even the great ones can't do that without good lines. You got to at least make that possible.
Play. You can't do that every play. And the very good to great running backs, they have the vision to see how the blocking is going, is performing at that moment, and make the appropriate cut or show the patience for that block to develop. I.e., I know he plays for another team, but Le'Veon Bell was very patient runner, and when he was with the Steelers, he had very much success by being patient for those holes, and when they developed, he hit it. The problem with last season was that the holes didn't develop.
No holes.
And
you talking about for Le'Veon? Also, because you didn't have the threat of the passing game.
I'm not talking about Le'Veon.
Okay, for us. Okay.
I'm talking about for the Dolphins. The holes didn't develop, and that was B gap holes. The guards and center for the Dolphins last year were beaten constantly.
Listen, the holes developed. It's just the wrong person coming through them.
Huh?
The holes were developed. It's just that the wrong people were coming through them. Like you can't listen. If you averaging 1.7 yards, there's a problem.
You averaging
what holes were developed?
Yeah. I'm saying pun. They were in our backfield so much that there had to be a hole for them to get there too.
Well,
they were in there so fast. The holes were developed. I said the wrong people were getting through them. Basically, meaning those linebackers were getting there before the helper, before they even engaged in a block. Yeah. For Balaj. That's all I was saying.
That's why you know it wasn't zone blocking either, though.
Yeah.
Or it was poorly executed. Because there were too many gaps. There were too many gaps that weren't being filled in the run game. And some of that could have been play calling too. I got to go study that a little more. But to help some of y'all out when it comes to Mike, Will, and Sam, it's just the terms. They're not actual, just so you know, they're not actual official names. It's football terminology. Mike, Will, and Sam. And to remember these guys, the best thing to do is just remember the first letter of each one. Mike, M. M is middle. Does that make sense? Mike, M. M is middle. All right. Sam, S, strong. Strong, all right? Strong side. What is a strong side? You got 5 offensive linemen. Which side is the strong side? Whatever side got the tight end, whatever side has the overload, whatever side is bulkier. So if you add a tight end on the right, that's the strong side. You add a tight end on the left, that's the strong side. So the strong side is going to change depending on the offensive formation. All right, so that's your S for strong. All right, I'm for Sam. All right, and Will, W, weak side. That's it. W for weak. It's the side of the football where all the action isn't showing. So if you got the strong side with the extra tight end, the opposite side is the weak side. All right, and that's the Will. So that's how you identify the 3 in a typical base 4-3 defense, though. All right. Now you also have the 3-4, or some people can say the nickel. You have 3-3-5. It just depends. It can switch up, but just remember, like Dwayne said, identify the Mike, who's the closest person to the A gap. All right, and strong side is the side where the most action is. Extra tight end, double tight end set. A running back motions out to the right, whatever it is, that's your strong side. So when you see motions happening and you see them linebackers shifting and they talking to each other, because the Sam might change. A guy may not be able to run in place in time, so he got to tell the other guy, you're the Sam on this one. You're the Will, you're the Mike, depending on the defense that we're in. So those things can change at a moment. It's a lot more thinking in football than people know.
I mean,
a lot more mental that takes place that you got to recognize.
And that's where the familiarity and the lack of familiarity last year impacted the Dolphins, because those first 4 or 5 weeks, they were getting offensive linemen. There was no continuity whatsoever. So to expect a large amount of success when you have 4 different or new offensive linemen playing for the first time that week, along with a replacement for an injured person. There's no continuity. There's nobody who, I shouldn't say nobody, but there's not a lot of familiarity with the communication and not a feel, not a good feel. So on a normal call on the offensive line, you got the mic, you got calls for double teams between the center and the guard. Play side, you may have a call for a double team between the tackle and the guard on the backside. You could have a double team between the tackle and the tight end on the play side. All of that going on in the span of 5 to 7 seconds.
3 seconds in some cases.
And Pat Larry didn't do us any favors in training camp because.
And then if the play call comes in late, you know, or the play's misunderstood because of unfamiliarity, now you have a breakdown. Then you have those plays that look like, man, it looks like the NFL versus a Pop Warner team. It looks like the guys are in the backfield before the snap is even made because of lack of communication and lack of familiarity, excuse me. But
I want to, Dwayne, I want to say, like, people have to, like, and y'all may disagree, but personally for me, I think from a mental standpoint that the linebacking position is one of the toughest things to play. It's one of the toughest things to play between those guys, having to identify what the offense is running. Just because it's a strong side don't mean it's running to the strong, you know? You're gonna have the opposite tight end and the strong tight end, the strong guard pulling to the weak side. And it's a counter run. And that, oh my gosh, it can blow you, because think about it. When you have an overload when you have an offensive line and you got a strong side, and when I say a strong side, I mean a real strong side, double tight end set to the right. Most Sams know double tight ends to the right, if this is a run to the right or a toss to the right, this is going to be a tough battle to get through. And I have to crash it as hard as I can and blow it up as hard as I can. But what if the play isn't even going that way? It's like, it's so much to think about in this game, and you have to recognize what's happening in the spurt of a second.
There are chess matches going on every play, and inside of those plays, between those assignment calls out, both on the offense and the defense, there are chess pieces being moved. That's why your communicators, the whoever the captain on the defense is, whether it's the communicator is the middle linebacker most of the time, the quarterback of the defense. You have communication in the secondary as well, where free safeties and have to talk with the linebackers and the cornerbacks. Everybody has to be communicating both on offense and defense to have a successful play, let alone a drive. So that's why when you think about some teams' philosophies of bend but don't break, because they're hoping that in some way, shape, or form, somewhere down the line,
you'll make a mistake.
You're going to make a mistake. Before you get to 7, before you get that touchdown, you're going to make a mistake, and we're going to capitalize on it. And by the same token, offense is hoping that you as a defense, one play, you're going to make a mistake, and we're going to get a long gain or a touchdown. And that can come by either the pass or the run.
But so, I don't like that though. Me personally, my personal preference in football, I hate that crap of bend but don't break. Now, if we suck, I'm satisfied with bend but don't break. But I'm tired of that thought process. It's like, no, don't bend. Give them nothing.
Well,
take everything.
When you have the talent to
do that,
to not break at all, and to enforce your will on the offense, then you can do those type of things. And that again comes with familiarity and communication. You know,
we have that talent right now.
We have the talent. We don't have the communication established yet because you have a lot of pieces that need to mesh together. So, you know, you have the communication that has to be established between those who have been here, those who have come in the short term through free agency. I'm sure that they've had conversations, but now you're talking about having to incorporate new people through the draft. So just imagine the communication that you're going to need between Wilkins and Weaver if they are on the same field on the field together. The communication to know what the expectation is for that play. So whether I'm going to Wilkins may say, okay, on this play I'm going to take a outside rush and or run a stunt. It could be where because of a weakness that they saw in an offensive lineman, he may be better at bull rushing the guy at a guard, which will give a hole or alleyway for Weaver as an edge rusher to come in and make a sack. But if they don't communicate that technique, that tactic that could actually occur, you may not get success right away. But later on in the season, you'll have more success. But if you have that communication down pat early, you'll have success early. The same thing with Van Noy. Whether or not they've established good communication between him and Godchild. I'm just putting people on sides. Mm-hmm. So and or with Shaq Lawson, could be the same communication. How we communicate on a stunt, how we communicate on this particular play, how are we going to react to each other, how are we going to play off of each other. That's the communication that needs to be established that can be successful if they communicate and practice with repetitions. Everything comes with communication, practice, repetitions, and study. You know,
I just hope that this O-line actually builds that chemistry. The D-line builds the chemistry. I just hope all the way through and through we have that chemistry, because we've seen so many years of not having it. Like, if you really go watch the film in depth, I know we don't talk about it a lot, but a lot of our issues have come from assignments being missed, lack of discipline, lack of reading the defense or reading the offense, vice versa. You know, a lot of the trench issues that we have, and we've relied a lot on, improvisation and compromising, and we got to get away from those type of things. So, and let me elaborate. When I say I don't like the bend but don't break philosophy, I do recognize, like some of y'all said in the comment section, it's the NFL. You know, that's one of the safest things to do. But I guess what I'm saying is, when you do get a team on third down, when you got them on their own 40 and you're not backed up in your own territory and it's 3rd and 6, I don't want any bend but don't break. I don't want us playing cushion. I want us to be aggressive. I want us to attack. And if we get burnt from it, we get burnt from it. But we got to stop doing common sense things.
Well,
it's 3rd and 4 and the corner is playing 11 yards off and they just throw it out. He runs up 4 yards, gets tackled, first down. These are guarantees.
Yeah, you think about it like this: with the talent that you have at the corners, right? Mm-hmm. 3rd and 6, they should be in man to man, where you only have 1.5 to 2 seconds to get rid of the ball.
Exactly.
Because that pass rush that they just established with Shaq Lawson and Ogba and Van Noy and maybe Weaver and maybe Strobridge and maybe Wilkins and
keep naming them.
Yeah, as you go down, and it comes in waves. You thinking about it, that pass rush, because of the talent and the ability to spot people, give them a break. 3rd down, you need you know what? I got a fully charged battery right here in Agba. Go in there, rush the passer for this play, give it all you got.
Yep.
Because guess what? 2 seconds, I can Xavier and Byron Jones, they can cover the man for 2 seconds.
Yep.
And that's what they expect.
Exactly.
So in that 2 seconds, that gives you time to get that quarterback. If it's more than if he is under a rush, the more likely is that there's a pass defense broken up or sack.
You say, or the throw isn't thrown accurately. See, that's what a lot of people don't recognize about even these elite quarterbacks. When a wide receiver creates 5 feet of separation in the NFL,
he's wide open.
That is wide open. So when a quarterback throws them the ball and they gotta slow down and wait on it, or they gotta reach behind them and catch it. Imagine that same situation with an actual pass rush. You're gonna get them off the field. Though with the pass rush, and it has to happen in the first second or 2 seconds. Though you can't throw behind a receiver. You don't have time for them to have to wait on the ball because it has to come out quick. The pressure is coming. And with the corners we got, look at the way we're building the defense, y'all. We're building the defense so that if we do send 5 or 6, we don't fit. We're not worried about the back end. We're not worried about getting killed for the big game. Literally, you got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. And no, like a lot of y'all yell at me all the time.
And Brandon Jones now too.
Brandon Jones. Hold on. Let's not forget Noah's Ark. You got the man Noah in here.
Yep.
I mean, yes, listen, he's Noah's Ark to me. I just can't. It's hard. Economically. The way we built this defense is a thing of beauty. It tells you off rip. We're gonna send pressure on certain plays, and you know what? It may not be 3rd and 1. It may not be 3rd and 4 that we're sending the pressure. It might be 2nd and 9, so we can get a 3rd and 9 and play sound. You see where I'm coming from? That's on a passing situation. 2nd and 9 is still considered a passing situation or early passing situation. That might be when we're sending 5 or 6 and we're bumping run man to man. And that's what you need to win in this game. When I watch the good defenses, they're sending pressure and they're playing bump and run. They're trying to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand fast, trying to make him make a mistake or be as accurate as possible. That means the offense that you're playing against has to play a perfect game to beat you. Windows are tighter and everything. And that's real bend but don't break.
And that's when that communication between Byron Jones and or Rowe, Kane or Jones or Igbenanoni, they all communicate what the actual attempt at a pass breakup could be, and to cover me on the backside just in case I'm wrong. So you might see Byron Jones get a few interceptions. You might see Xavier get a few more interceptions. You might see Rowe get a lot more pass breakups because of communication and trust that only comes with familiarity and communication and repetition.
Absolutely. And I would like for our safeties, us to create opportunities for our safeties to be free, even if it's in a cover 2. I want those guys to be free. I want our linebackers to cover so well that we can man up. Even in a dime, we can man up. Corners and linebackers manned up with their guys, and the safeties can literally communicate with the corners and say, hey, I got your top side. I want you to play underneath this guy. Get creative and let the scheme allow that, depending on what the offense is running. That's the ultimate football, when your players are out there communicating and having fun and being creative because they got guys that can handle their responsibilities so well that they can afford that. Like, imagine not needing help side anywhere on the field, and now your safeties have an opportunity to really be creative with the corners or the linebackers. You know what I mean? That's when you get into fun football. It's not as that's where Rashad Jones would excel. That's why he always did his freelancing and it got him in trouble. But we never had the personnel on the front side of him that would allow that. That's why we got burnt in so many cases with Rashad Jones freelancing, coming in the box trying to blitz when he should be back covering. I mean, there's been many situations of him doing that. But if you got the personnel to allow you to do it, that's when the game gets really fun and the coaches aren't complaining because y'all out there making decisions. Y'all coaching yourself out there too. Y'all taking chances that y'all feel good about because that corner knows he can guard that guy, and he's telling the safety, go give him hell. You know, that's like giving freedom to your defense, but you got to be great to do that. It's that Palomalu stuff, you know.
Every now and then, a good safety knows where to interject and try certain things. Now, again, that comes with experience, communication, where you talk. Okay, I'm gonna try and put my hat into the box this play. I'm gonna come hard deep. So if you communicate that to your cornerback or your free safety, then you can have a successful attempt and still have coverage in the back. Mm-hmm. So maybe instead of playing 4 yards off the wide receiver, that one cornerback plays 7 or 8, allow you the time to be able to put your hat into the box, make an impact play on the running play, and you still have coverage from the free safety because you communicated your intent. Now, that's not done on 3rd and 4 on the 20-yard line with 50 seconds left and you down 3. That's the
to throw that play.
But at the very least, certain situations you can call that play or that action out to your teammates. They got your back, and you are cracking up on the comment.
When you have as many veterans that we have now compared to last year, maybe you can take that chance because these guys know what they're doing. They can communicate it better, like you were saying. But with a bunch of young guys, that's
That I mean, you don't want to get the wrath of Flo on you, because Flores with that head, he get that look on his face. You don't want to have that look after you made that type of action and it went unfulfilled or fruitless, and you got to walk back to that sideline.
Not gonna be good.
Not gonna be good. And as much as I like the persona of Gerald Alexander, he's not gonna like that either. As a defensive backs coach, he's not gonna like the fact that you freelanced on a play and you don't have the experience and you didn't communicate that intention to your fellow secondary personnel or your linebackers.
It's gonna be interesting, man. Any other thoughts that you had about the subject, Dwayne or Finsanity?
About the blocking or what?
Blocking or what? Anything that we've been talking about so far?
Well, I'd like to say this, that the reason why you want to go for the move the fat man first is because your linebackers normally are 2 to 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So it's quite obvious you take the first target out and then you peel off and get the linebacker. So when you saw linebackers making plays in the backfield against the Dolphins last year, that told me that A, they didn't perform the double team correctly, and B, they didn't even perform their secondary assignment, which is filling that gap, being mindful of that gap, and thus allow that linebacker to come in relatively scot-free to make that play. So the plug and play, where the next man up philosophy works well with it if you have people who understand and are familiar with the lingo and the communication, so that let's say Kinley is the starting guard. Okay. Let's just say Kinley's the starting guard, and for some reason he gets nicked for a play or two, or he's got to sit out a quarter. Dieter comes in. Dieter should be familiar with the terminology and the tactics, techniques, and procedures to be able to perform at the same level as Kinley. And the same goes for Kinley. If Dieter is the starting guard and Kinley comes in, because he's practiced and repped, he should be able to perform that combo block or expect the same double team assignment aid that Dieter got, because the principles are the same. They don't change from player to player. They don't change from team to team as far as your aim for that play or aim for that game, because whether it's a 3-man front or a 4-man front, identify the mic, establish the double teams, work the first level, and then work the second level with the peel-offs. And it's as simple as that.
So you mentioned move the fat guy first. Who is typically the fat guy?
The fat guy is the person in front of you. Whether it's the defensive tackle, the nose tackle, or defensive end. You move the fat man first and then work to the second level, whether that's the middle linebacker or the inside linebacker or the
who is typically that big guy?
The nose tackle. The nose tackle is the biggest guy, because of course you want to move that fat man. Everything on a 3-4 is based on that nose tackle. You move that, you want to perform that double team, and sometimes you want to call a triple team on them, because again, you triple team that nose tackle to get him moving back, and then your responsibility as the guard, backside or play side guard, is to peel off with the head, moving your eyes and head to get that line back.
And let me help some of y'all understand again. Let me break down exactly what we're talking about here with the moving the big guy first, which is typically the nose tackle. In a perfect world, it ain't easy in the NFL to move nose tackles.
Nope.
That's why they hired to do their job, is be an anchor. Yep. Just sit at the worst case scenario, just don't move backwards. Now you in a whole lot of trouble if that nose tackle is still penetrating. Okay? The goal is to take the nose tackle and push him backwards about 2 to 3 to 4 yards. Push him back.
Push him to the linebacker. Push him to the linebacker.
Because now if you're running on the strong side, the weak side linebacker is out of the play now. The weak side linebacker can't even get to the play because you've used that defensive tackle as well as yourself to create a wall that he has to now run around, which in the NFL, running around something means you're already behind. Also, depending on the mic, where the mic is lined up, if they're in the A gap on the opposite side of the play, if you can move that tackle fast enough, you might be able to get to that level. Not often will that happen, okay? But that mic is going to shift over quick.
But that double team guy should
peel off.
Yep.
Well, he should peel off and protect his gap. He's not supposed to chase linebackers. He's supposed to protect that gap. And so, if your initial block is successful, and you got a double team, and you see that linebacker has moved from the A gap to the B gap, then you got a responsibility to pass that initial block on, and take that linebacker.
Yeah, but you could also be creative. Like the double team, you could be creative. So take the center and the right guard, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the center and the right guard, and you have the nose tackle playing a zero technique. And for y'all who don't understand what the zero technique is just lined up directly over the center. Okay? One-on-one, center, nose tackle. Let's go. But the right guard, what he can do, the center can communicate and say, we're going to double this guy and try to drive him backwards. If you see the mic coming around, you let him go and you pick up the mic.
Yep.
That's kind of what we're explaining here. That's the creativeness.
Yep.
That's when your guard is those are the great guards.
Yep.
They're double teaming the nose tackle, pushing them back. But now the mic is coming, and now, okay, you got him one-on-one now, center. I'm veering off. I'm shedding that. Now he's all yours. I got to pick up this mic. Now you block. Now the mic is taken care of. The wheel is taken care of, the weak side. So now you got a strong linebacker against two defensive ends, but you got the guard, the right tackle, the tight end, all on their blocking assignment. Now you got a running back in the open field if you can secure that. And worst case scenario, he's just taking on the safety one-on-one. And that's what you're trying to accomplish in the middle of that O-line is getting guards that's capable of pushing back the nose tackle on a double team and shedding that block and hit and contacting the mic. The problem is the mic just kept running by.
Yep.
The mic kept every play that we tried that the mic would run by and the guard would never release to handle the mic. The mic got back there too quick. So that's where a lot of our issues came. And then when we stopped having the guard help out on the nose tackle and just worry about the mic, now the nose tackle is abusing our center one-on-one. So that was a lot of the issues as well. This is why I was talking so much the last few weeks about needing that superior nose tackle. And Raekwon Davis, man, I just hope that he can fill that role and be that guy that don't get pushed back. That's the key. Even on a double team, y'all, that's the key. A nose tackle that doesn't get pushed back on a double team. And if you can get him to actually penetrate and go forward, even if it's 6 inches forward, oh boy, you got something.
Yeah, because
running game ain't gonna do nothing.
Not only that, but if he can get that in the passing attack, if he can get some push to compact that pocket, compress that pocket, now that makes the edge rusher's job that much easier because that quarterback can't step up.
Yep.
So that's why Raekwon, Benito Jones may just make this team. I know he's an undrafted free agent, but he may make this team. Okay. Stranger things have happened, but the process of the need for that nose tackle to plug up that middle is key to any 3-4 or 3-4 hybrid defense. Whether he's shading to one side or the other of the center or going head up against the center, it is key that he maintains his place. And it's also key for that center and play side guard or backside guard or all three of them to try to uproot that nose tackle. Because if they uproot him, then they can peel off like Finsanity and you said, TD, you can peel off and attack and protect attack the middle linebacker or the strong side linebacker, strong side inside, weak side strong. You can attack those linebackers and prevent them from getting into the gaps. If you've done that, because you got in a like I said, in a 2x2 or 3x1, one linebacker is already taken out of the box because they're covering a receiver of some sort, either a tight end or a wide receiver. Even if their responsibility is a curl flat or a hook curl, they're covering them. So in a running play, they're out of it, basically. But so you got that 5-5 hat. Now you can attack that nose tackle, and then each one of them peel off and get the right side inside linebacker and or the backside guard attack the left inside linebacker. So either way, you got to get control of that middle first. And then from that, you start attacking outward. So that's why I was saying, move the fat man first. Attack the fat man first. Mm-hmm. That's the key. And that's why double teams with the tight end and the tackle, they got to communicate as well. Because if you got to play running to the B gap or outside, you need to make sure you control that defensive end and or defensive tackle, depending on how they're aligned. But you gotta protect and attack that element as well.
So that's why I always say, man, y'all have to realize, man, first of all, having a great defensive tackle who's an anchor is so important, and I think that we're moving in that direction. I just hope that Raekwon becomes that guy. I think he is, but only time will tell. But you know what can also help out? An elite center who actually is so smashed, just hard-headed, just one of those gritty ones that'll tell you, I'll take the guy on one-on-one, and hold his own. They're rare.
I always say I wanted my offensive defensive lineman to be the 9th out of 16 children that grew up every day was hungry and ate like a hog, but was strong as a hog as well. So that way you knew that they had the grit and determination to move the line of scrimmage one way or the other, depending on whether they're offense or defense. You want that guy who had to necessarily fight his brothers and sisters for that extra piece of chicken. Get off of me, doggone it. I'm eating this. You ain't getting this. I'm getting this. That's what you want. You want that grit and determination, and with some agility to be able to move their feet as an offensive lineman, to be able to move your feet and not bring them together so you can keep that wide base and be able to take those quick steps and have a good punch. Oh, man, it's a wonderful thing to see it when it all works in unison. But you need, first and foremost, you need strength.
Yep.
Need strength. You can teach, but you need strength. Okay? You need strength. It's hard to find a Warren Sapp. It's hard to find a Manny Fernandez. It's hard to find a Gerald McCoy. It's hard to find a Chris Jones. But when you find them, man, they are outstanding.
It works wonders on your scheme, because now you don't have to overcompensate in any situation, and that's what it's all about, man. Yeah. But guys, we don't want to beat y'all too much over the head with too much of this talk, but these talks are necessary because this helps you dive into more of schematics in football, understanding why we do what we do, when we do what we do, and how we do what we do, or what we're trying to do. But we also have to understand we have to have the right personnel to pull it off. And that's what this draft was about, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't about all the sexy picks from college. It was about the guy who best fits what we are trying to accomplish. There are a lot of different offensive linemen we could have picked in this draft, but we went with the athletic guys, the ones who can move, the ones who are very active and strong. That's why I am literally saying, hey, they might be trying to implement zone blocking schemes, but these guys have to be smart, and we got a lot of mentally disciplined guys. So it's all coming together, and it makes a lot of sense, man. I'm just so glad we were able to talk about this tonight, because this is an important topic. We're going to have so many other topics like this, guys. But before we end this one, any last words from Finsanity or yourself, Dwayne?
I'll allow the lady to go first. So, Finsanity, please, if you.
Oh man, Dwayne, you did not need me tonight. You did an absolute amazing job. I remember when TD hit me up and he said it was you. I said absolutely, I will be here. Any way to support you because you are a true fan, and I know that for sure. To everyone who didn't get to hear me, I'm sorry. I promise. I had notes. I had things to talk about, but Dwayne literally took the words out of my mouth, and that rarely happens. So big ups to you. Congratulations. And I look forward to hearing so much more from you. Hopefully this means I can have Thursdays off now because TD always trying to get me to work. TD always trying to get me to work, yeah. But
hopefully we can see Dwayne and Finsanity next Thursday as well, guys.
I said that, right? I said
that. Listen, man.
Hey, you hanging out with us next Thursday, Finsanity?
Of course, Dwayne will have
me. See, I gotta put on the spot, Dwayne.
He doesn't need me. we gonna talk about this, DD. But no, listen, man. There are very few people that I can take my hat off to. My hat goes off to you, man. I was really just enjoying the comment section and these guys over here. Also, if you are a mod, and I'm not calling anybody out, and another team's fan, a fan from another team comes in here, and they're not saying any profanity, do not hide their message. Leave them alone. They control, they can talk. That's not what you're here for. You're here to keep derogatory comments off. Anyone can say anything about our team. That's between them and theirs. At the end of the day, our team has to answer to it, not you.
Yeah, all mods should already know that we welcome any and everything as long as it's not disrespectful or inappropriate for kids.
But I do understand eventually it did get there, and I understand why the person was timed out, but in the beginning it wasn't. But
yeah, so if somebody says, the Dolphins suck, leave their comment alone. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Over here, we try to promote accepting others' opinions, even if it crushes you inside, because it only will make you stronger. It'll only make you better. It'll only make you...
It'll make it more satisfying when we disprove them this year, right?
Somebody said even Patriots fans. I might turn my eye on that a little.
You know what? They're not going to be a lot of Patriot fans because most of them are fair weather fans. Because before Brady, you didn't even hear about people being Patriot fans. So I know that a lot of them are going to be falling off the bandwagon.
Hey, they listen. We're going to see how loyal they are this year. We're going to see how loyal they were.
They're going back to the Sox. That's it. The Sox and the Brewers.
Yes.
They're going to go his fans.
Exactly. Hey, Dwayne, man, I wanted to say I appreciate you tonight, man. Are we going to be able to see you next Thursday?
Sure. I will
see. I got to put him on the spot too, y'all. But but no, man, this was very insightful, man. This is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the conversations that we've had recently. And as we were talking about it, I said, man, more people got to hear this, man. But I was talking to Dwayne, and just a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, I was learning. And whenever I could sit back and humble myself and say, wow, I'm learning right now, and man, I have to include that type of content for you all. And that's one of the main reasons we brought this to you all tonight. So thank you so much, Dwayne, for helping us know more about so many different things. The supplementary draft, that wasn't me. That was Dwayne talking to me about it. And I'm like, let me look this up a little more. TD don't know everything. But I tell you, when it's individuals like Dwayne that brings it to my attention, I research a lot of y'all stuff. I research a lot of the stuff y'all send me, man. I really do. And sometimes it catches my eye. Sometimes it is. I already know that it's not that big of a deal. But I promise you, Dwayne, everything that you wrote to me last week, I mean, I was just looking into it. I was like, this is so interesting. And it blew my mind. That's where your mind is. So we definitely wanted to include that on the show because more people, like I always think about myself when it comes to being a fan. How much does the typical fan really know? And I'm not talking about everybody watching right now, but even though I am, technically I am. But I put myself in those shoes. How much, when I was a typical fan 2 years ago, a diehard fan, a real passionate fan, but typical when it comes to knowledge of the game and football. And until you study, until you read, until you're more educated, until you understand what a Will, Mike, or Sam is, why it's the terminology and what his role is on the field, until you know what a dime package is, until you know what a cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 568. No, I'm just playing. Yeah, your gap assignments, shady. Until you know all that stuff, it's real hard to have a real football conversation, because a lot of these things matter in a real game. And then I sit back and I realize the typical fan just knows that guy can't catch and that guy can. That guy can't block and that guy can. They don't understand assignments and this and that and this. So, yes.
You know what these are?
What's that?
Attributable factors.
It's insanity. Just drop the mic on us.
It's really a pen. It was a pen.
It's the mic.
Take it back to season 1.
It's the attributables, all the nuances that make that. This is what really determines the game. We got to start looking at the surface and understand the symptoms. Don't look at the illness. Understand the symptoms. All right. And the behaviors that need to be addressed on the team. And that's what we try to bring every chance that we get. And I think that we did a good job tonight bringing that. So thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Finsanity. Any last words, Dwayne, you have for the people?
You know what? I know we ran into a whole bunch of technical stuff, but guess what? Go Dolphins! Go Dolphins!
Hands up, baby!
Go Dolphins!
Hey, Dwayne, I still need my trivia thing with you and Ronnie, so don't punk out on me because you're doing these Thursday night things. Stay up on it.
Take on anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Ooh, shot fired.
We might have to do a what's the name? We have to have a tournament.
Hey, we can do it, man. We'll set
$300 cash prize, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that'll bring some people out the woodworks.
Possibly, but I'm about to get out of here, guys. And call it a night. This is TD Fins Talk.
Thank you very much. And
absolutely, man.
To the Finn family, I hope you enjoyed it. And if there's something that I didn't cover or something that I was erroneous in, please let TD know so he can let me know. And if there's something that I need to cover that I didn't cover, please let TD know so he can funnel that back to me as well.
Absolutely. You know I will, man. Absolutely. Man, this was fun tonight, actually talking about the less sexy stuff about football, but the stuff that matters more than the sexy stuff. So thank y'all for tuning in to TD Fins Talk. Y'all hit that like button on your way out. Stay tuned for the show. My next show, guys, we're going to be talking about a sleeper pickup. We will be talking about a sleeper pickup for the Miami Dolphins, a guy who has the opportunity to come in, help change his franchise. Guys, man, I learned this guy from you all. Y'all been talking about him a lot for the last few days, and I went and did my research. I am blown away. We're going to talk about this kid coming up really soon. Check me out either tomorrow night or Saturday early morning. Just got to make sure I get the timing right because I'm going to travel real quick tomorrow, but hopefully I'm back in time. But we will talk about it. This kid, excuse me, this kid is special, man, and we got to talk about him because if this kid turns out to be that guy, whoo, he might help us have one of the best cores in the NFL at this position. I'll leave it at that. This TD Fins Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. We will see y'all soon. No. Hold on. Let me say something about that real quick because she says, "Oh, I be in your comment section on every stream. You don't ever bring me backstage." I said, "What do you want to talk about?" And she just wants to talk about the same thing every time.
Ricky?
Why can't we bring Ricky Williams back? I said, I'm going to start ignoring you, girl. And now she come in the comment section said, tell TD to call his sister.
Listen, he came back once and did great things for it. I don't know if he got it still in him, though, but.
She just trolling. My own sister be trolling me, y'all. That's what we do to each other.
Lisa,
but I love it, though.
You can do this, girl. I'm saying it.
We waiting on you, Lisa. We waiting on you, Lisa. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. This is TD Fins Talk, home of the